Good morning, everybody. I'm back with some more of Skylark by Patricia McLachlan. We are on Chapter 8. We hung wildflowers from the ceiling to dry them for winter, I remember. Sarah cut our hair, tossing it into the field so the birds could use it for nests. And we sang. When Sarah read books with us, even her words were a song. So Sarah must have been a really good reader. This is the beginning of Chapter 8. Sarah and I sat in the kitchen. The air was thick with the heat, and there was no breeze. There hadn't been any wind for days. Sarah was writing a letter to the aunts in Maine. I wrote in my journal. "Remember the wildflowers?" I asked Sarah. "And the roses that grew on the fence? Remember singing?" Sarah looked up. "Yes," she said. She reached out and touched my hair. "Papa! Papa! Coyote!" shouted Caleb from outside. Sarah and I ran outside. By the paddock fence, a thin coyote was drinking water out of the water pail. "He'll kill Moonbeam!" shouted Caleb. Papa came from the field, took a step toward the coyote, then turned and ran to the house. He came out with his rifle. "Jacob, what are you going to do?" cried Sarah. "Go inside, Sarah," he said. Papa raised his rifle to shoot the coyote, but Sarah grabbed the barrel of the rifle. "No, don't do it, Jacob, don't!" "Sarah, stop!" yelled Papa. Papa tried to push her away, and the coyote looked up at the sound of their... Slowly he ran away over the fields, stopping once to look back. Then he was gone. Sarah began to cry. "He only wanted water. Water, Jacob!" Caleb climbed over the paddock fence and stood next to me. Papa took Sarah's arm and turned to Caleb. "Put the animals in the barn, Caleb," said Papa. Caleb turned and walked to the barn. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. "Water," she said. "He only wanted water, just like us." She slumped to the ground and put her hands over her face as she cried. "Get Sarah something to drink, Anna," said Papa. He took off his hat and sat down on the ground next to her. "Anna," he said sharply, "now!" I turned and went to the water barrel and scooped out a cup of water. Papa put his arms around Sarah. His voice was soft. "Sarah, Sarah," he said softly, "it will be all right. It will be all right." But Sarah cried and cried, and when Papa turned and looked at me, I knew that nothing was all right. The look in his eyes was fear. And that night, when I came in from the barn to go to bed, there was something else missing from the fence. Missing like Sarah's roses. Caleb's glass was gone. That's a pretty dramatic scene. Why do you think Sarah is so upset that a coyote can't get the water? "They're coming," said Caleb, looking out the upstairs window. He wore a clean shirt, and his hair was brushed smooth. I wore the dress I had worn when Papa and Sarah were married. Outside, wagons came into the yard. "Will this make Sarah happy?" Caleb asked me, worried. I watched more wagons drive in. I saw Maggie dressed in a rose dress and a straw hat. "Yes," I said, "this will make Sarah happy." "Anna, Caleb, what is this?" said Sarah in the bedroom doorway. We whirled around, silent. Sarah walked to the window to look out, too, but I took her hand and pulled her out into the hallway. Papa looked up the stairs at her. He wore a vest and his hair was slicked back. He smiled at her. "Happy birthday, Sarah," he said. "There are guests and presents, Sarah," said Caleb. "But I'm not dressed," said Sarah. "Then get dressed," said Papa softly. Outside, there was a table in the shade of the house, set with food and lemonade. Maggie and Matthew were there, and Rose and Violet and the baby. All the neighbors were there too. Papa carried something covered with a cloth out to the table. "What is it?" asked Maggie. "You'll see," said Papa. "Here she is," someone said. We all turned, and Sarah came out on the porch in her white dress. "Happy birthday, Sarah," said Papa. "Happy birthday," everyone called. Sarah smiled at the sight of them, everyone washed and clean, as if the prairie winds had stopped covering us all with dust. "A present from the aunts," said Papa. He took the cloth away, and there was a phonograph. I handed him a record, and he put the needle on it. Suddenly, music filled the yard. Sarah stared. Papa walked up to her and held out his hand. He smiled and came down the steps, and they began to dance. Maggie and Matthew began to dance too, and the baby between them. Everyone danced then in the dirt yard, the light around them all yellow like an old photograph. Sarah buried her face in Papa's shoulder, and Caleb smiled and began to set. As they danced out, everyone was happy again, even Sarah. With this chapter, I want you, if you know what a phonograph is, N-O-G-R-H, phonograph. If you don't know, why don't you try and find a picture of it? It's an old record, one of the very first. And we continue. The light waved goodbye. Caleb and Papa took him off to bed. Papa helped Sarah carry the phone. "I have a present for you," said her a small book. "It's a book about our family." Papa went out, sat down, and opened the book. Read again. "I didn't know I touches her hair. You like it?" "It music," said Sarah.